I always had thought that you either had sort of a sacred and aesthetic relationship with the natural world or a utilitarian. And I don't think it had ever occurred to me that you can have both and rather than either or.
We're almost at 8,000 feet, about 85 days of growing season, and then after that it starts to freeze, and it's a very harsh, windy, bitter, cold environment. Julie taught for an environmental education class, and they picked up the book, The Last Ranch. Through that, they decided they'd get a hold of me, and somehow I decided that it was okay to have them come. I didn't really know who they were. And she drove into the ranch on the bus. That's how we met.
I arrived at the ranch at the age of 44, dyed-in-the-wool environmentalist, anti-cattle vegetarian person, and saw that there were ranchers who had this deep, profound relationship with the land and their animals, which was something that I didn't think existed. And I've been here for 17 years.
That's how we came together, because what she brought to that was that environmental ethics side of that, which fed my soul, really. All my life I've really been interested in environmental things, and I didn't really know even the word environmentalist. I didn't really know what that meant. And we used the livestock to fertilize our hay and our feed for the sheep and the cattle, and that's the way I learned to do, and that's the way we still do it today. And that's why I wound up being organic just by default, because that's the way we did things. What we're trying to do is evolve from where we are into what we would consider sustainable, I think. And so understanding that biodiversity of soil and the plants and the microorganisms that live in the soil is so important, because there's a relationship going on there all the time, and it's the relationship we need to understand. We live in a dry place, and that's kind of one of our unfair advantages. And that I noticed that hay, when it was left out, was about the same as the hay that was in the stack. It was just out in the field. And so we came home and did about 80 acres of this and tested it out. And after that, I got rid of my baler and everything else. And so we cut the hay with the windrower, and we rake it up with an old dump rake and pull it up into these piles. All of everything you see here came from the soil. We cut it and pile it. We're running it through that rumen and putting it back. This hay is still fairly green. And it's also, you can see the broadleafs. There's a lot of vetch and clover. So there's a little bit of everything in this, and so in that diversity, there's protein and there's carbohydrates and there's all the things that a cow needs in a given day.
We practice water conservation in the design and management of our irrigation systems. And so basically, as people became more efficient, there was more land that could be put into production. But as a consequence, you return less water into the aquifer.
Most places don't even recognize the connection between groundwater and surface water and don't want to. And it's because it tends to stop development.
We have phenomenal water storing capacity in our soils and in the grasslands that are under our management. If you can find a practice, a management practice that allows you to work with natural system, you're making money by not spending money, and that's one of the few controls you actually have in agriculture.
George and Julie really are models for soil and water conservation in all its aspects. They have been real bridge builders between the different communities in the valley.
Those water issues have brought together environmentalists and farmers and ranchers. We fight with each other when there's nobody else to fight with, but somebody shows up and take water, and man, we'll just like kicking a beehive. We're going to be on it.
George has actually always loved talking about what he's learning not just what he knows, but what he's curious about.
Julie and I have put a lot of effort into bringing young people into this operation who are interested in it but don't normally have access. They weren't born on a farm, they didn't somehow marry into a farm, they have no way to get back onto the land.
George and I started the apprenticeship program, I think, for a couple of reasons. One, that desire to not just do this for ourselves, to want it to have a life beyond us. They give us a lot of hope. The bank balance isn't necessarily the one that's most important to us, but we have to pay attention to it, because if you can't make a living doing this, eventually you're going to have to sell out. And in a lot of the Intermountain West, what ends up happening is that land goes out of agriculture.
There's ways to do both, to do conservation and to maintain an economic or viable ag system. It's just, there's a delicate balance.
Money is just a way that we exchange value between people. How much of that you have doesn't measure your success. What measures it is the quality of the people in your life, and the quality of your life, and the quality of your soil. And so we're very rich in that way.
We just have to keep finding more and more ways to try to step back from our own story and hear the other person's story. And that's hard to do, because if their story doesn't agree with yours, you start to feel attacked, even if that's not the intention. And we've got to get past that somehow.